my mother's side is Peranakan. You know, given that my dad's side is Cham. Although a lot of people, I don't know, just assume that somehow I'm maybe it's because of my name. But you know, because during that era, there's always a mom that's always talking to the kids. Yeah, that's right. I guess that's hence the term mother tongue. So grew up, you know, speaking a lot of Baba with them, Champo, Hokkien, Bahasa. Yeah, and you know, conversationally, yes, bypass people, Pakaba, you know, and sudah makan, that kind of thing. But that's the extent of it. I know enough to get in trouble, but other than that, you know, with the usual Hokkien Baba growing up, always getting scolded chilaka, that kind of thing. And so those were the things. But you know, I must say that even then, as things growing up during that time, I must say I had our share of fun. Originally, I was down at the Balestier right now, where it's called Hygiene Lane, where Zhongshan Mall is sitting right now. It was this huge villa brand that used to be a racehorse owner. And, you know, he started getting into all shenanigans as well. But then after that, I remember we moved out. That was when I was still, you know, I think close to kindergarten at that time. And then thereafter relocated to Toa Payoh. Grew up there as yes. So at that time, Toa was one of the first, one of the very new housing estates, and I remember they gained a notorious reputation of being called Chicago of Singapore, right? But those were early days. Then since then, all the housing estates sprung up. So Toa Payoh is now one of the more mature estates.
Yeah. So what social class would you say your family background is?
I would say you take it the bottom of the, you know, during the Japanese occupation, she left school and never went back to work. So pretty much, you know, they had to just earn a keep as well. And growing up at that time,
what jobs did they do, your parents?
No, my basically my mom was a housewife. My dad was basically, you know, he was one. I couldn't quite figure out at that time, and then never really got the music. He was working at some point of his photographs. I think he was working with the airlines or something. Then later on, passed away. Never really got to know.
Much closer to your mother than your father.
You know, it was just a normal thing that our parents were.
So what was your schooling experience like?
Very unlike what I
you eventually went to ACS, right?
I did.
What was that?
My dad was an old boy over there, so and was at the Buffalo.
I was from Buffalo too.
Really?
My year was year 57, before you were born.
So wait a second. So okay lah. Right. Now when I went back, because my son finished already, but when I went back a couple of times, it was completely unrecognized. They rebuilt the whole thing. So the tuck shop, quadrangle, all the school field, everything's gone. School field's gone. And now in its place right now, I think there's a big multi-story car park. On top of that, there's a swimming pool, right? Yeah. And apparently the clock tower, they demolished it and moved it like a few meters, and then rebuilt it. You know better.
Yeah.
How? But no, I mean, to answer your question, growing up in ACS was strict. And I remember, you know, I didn't do it personally. I went catching spiders, stuff like that. You know, hantam bola, you know, jate. All right. And you had space for that.
were you in sports or
No, I wasn't particularly a very
were you
athletic. No, no. You know, I don't know why. Growing up, I was one of the shorter ones in class. And so every time you lined up, the teacher will ask you, line up, sit in front. Shorter ones sit in front, taller ones at the back.
Mr. Ratnam, did you say?
Oh, yes. My goodness.
Yes, do you know that he's the grandfather of Tharman?
Oh, really?
Yes.
The science teacher?
Yes.
Oh, then now when you mentioned it, yeah, it does strike that resemblance, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
He used to teach us science, physics. And was it chemistry? I've forgotten already. But in any case, you know, I must say that I enjoyed the phase. I'm afraid to say that I can't say the same for my son, because since then things have been very different.
Things have changed a lot.
Yeah. And as I said, the space afforded you that time as well.
When you talk about space, what do you mean?
You know, if you look at where the present
Physical space.
Physical space. Physical space. A dorm has come up for international students, and everything is chock-a-block, right? There isn't room for you to go and play and wander around. I don't know if you remember, but the school field walking down Essamon Lane, it was one of the most rustic, you know, and then there's an outhouse over there that's almost derelict, but you know, so it was just haunted, that kind of thing. But that's what I mean. You could go out and really explore.
So who are some of the classmates that are in the public view nowadays?
Alvin Yo, the late Alvin Yo, passed away, the PAP MP. Yeah, I think he passed away. He was my classmate. And if I'm not mistaken, somewhere down the road there, Ang Peng Siong came up, swimmer. But he left us in secondary school or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. You know, so those people. My year, not very many people have taken that public office role.
Yeah. So, the joke that we all have is that ACS boys went into business and RI boys went into the government.
You know, that seems to be the conventional say, although of course I know a lot of schoolmates.
I don't know about your time, but my time, the ACS student character was kind of irreverent, playful, right? I don't know about your time.
There was one. I remember one incident. I think Raffles Institution, but one of their buildings caught fire or something. During school assembly, somebody said everybody put it in, take responsibility. So that was the kind of, and I remember during those days, oh my goodness, rugby. Whenever we were up in St. Andrews, RI, or the whole school just gearing up for it, and then after that the withdrawals over there. But you know, we all took it in the spirit of
I mean, ACS versus RI rugby, that's really an occasion for
and you always get the fights and then that kind of thing. It's just a lot of rivalry, but at the same time, I think it was very.
No, this is very important because I think your school background, your childhood background, they offer some indications as to your tenacity, your what should I say, your courage to go against conventions. I mean, so basically, where does your fighting spirit come from?
I don't know. I mean, I'm
because the title of your book, Never on Bended Knees. That's very clear that you have this fighting spirit in you.
I look back at my own family tree, very few of them, although, okay lah, you go back, talk about my great-grandfather, he was one of those people who organized that for Sun Yat-sen. And he was one that started one of the regional newspapers here in Singapore. But apart from that, I cannot see, I haven't found anybody who's really actively engaged in politics, much less, coming out and trying to swim upstream.
No, not just politics. Were you a fighter in school?
Got into a couple of fisticuffs. Got in a couple of fisticuffs. But
you know, need a kind of gang.
No, I mean, no.
Gang leader.
No, I mean.
No, my time there's plenty of gangs.
Just to paraphrase, we are not gangsters. That.
Yeah.
But then, okay lah, we weren't exactly angels lah.
Yeah.
But at this time it was all in good fun, And after that, I remember getting into a couple of sessions with guys, and after put our hands around each other and they're okay lah, let's go for a little touch up and eat together, that kind of thing. So nothing was ever taken for it. Was always that rivalry that we would, And also, okay, because I was in NPCC, that National Police Cadet Corps, and we would organize camps during school breaks, and then St. John would organize their camps. The National Cadet Corps, and at night we would organize, wait until everybody's asleep, and then we organize raiding parties. You know how, it's 15-year-olds, what they're up to. We'll go over there, we'll put chili into their boots, smear, Colgate onto their faces and that kind of thing. But everything I just remember was good fun. And come back to class again. So recently, that year just got together here for our reunion. And some of them for 40 years. We still see each other, and then right now just reminisce with old times. And so it's that kind of camaraderie.
Yeah, so basically I want to kind of lead you into discussing your political outlook, okay? But before we go there, your education, your university education, how was it that you went to America? Why?
Oh my gosh, because to be very honest with you, I walked through my ACJC days and do Chinese school, not junior college, not far from here. Because I didn't know what I was doing half the time. I hated class because everything was just memorization, right? Whether it was physics, biology, chemistry, and I don't know what possessed me to take the combination of those courses over there. I absolutely hated it, detested it. And then even our general paper, it was all about structured writing, follow formula. I don't know, when I look back right now, it never really afforded me that kind of space, that intellectual freedom to explore and to discover self. So I absolutely hated the 2 years.
So what were you doing in your spare time then?
Going to the library now, when everybody's sitting in the student carrels, just picking out a book. But if the book was there, the mind was somewhere else. And I never quite figured out.
So your mind was where?
Yeah, again, thinking back, was everywhere except in the classroom. And
you were not an outdoor person, were you? A lot? Were you into reading books?
So, at that time, no. At that time, no. I just.
So what occupied your mind?
I guess it was just, I don't know, you're just wandering around.
Because a lot of kids at that time were
sure,
movies and comics and whatever.
And okay lah, during that time, disco was the in thing lah.
Disco.
Disco. And I remember Glenn Gui.
Glenn, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Glenn was the party guy.
Yeah.
always organizing parties and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. At that time, I didn't know him very well.
So girls and all that were very
GSO is all what, Girl Scout Officer or something like that. He had a name for them. They were especially had to go to CHIJ, to get to know the girls and bring them to our parties and those kinds of things. So it wasn't years of, very productive, but contrasted
you were
to
having fun. That's basically right.
I don't know. I was also very lost. So compared to say the secondary school days, primary school days, I just, when you think back, I was very lost when I was in junior college. Not quite sure what you wanted to do. It's just, as I said, it's just next door here. And never quite really figured what I wanted to do and what life was all about. All those philosophical questions. But in the end, just coasted through, managed to get by, but performed dismally. And then the next thing I knew, we were in NS.
What were you in NS?
I was at Beeson Camp for my BNT recruit. And then at the end of 3 months, I was transferred over to the police side. So I did 9 months of training as an officer cadet. Graduated with.
So your NPCs thing,
don't know. Naturally, I mean, I didn't think that there was this connection, but it turned out that they transferred me over.
But they knew it, I guess.
I don't
know. Yeah, records.
Maybe. But I must say that after that, following junior college, I did enjoy my national service. You've got to roll with the punches. I know a lot of people have got this mindset that really the post and that kind of thing. But I must say that even during the 3 months of army training, I enjoyed it with my mates in my platoon and had a rollicking time. It was tough. But many stories to tell before during that. And because we were in Nee Soon camp over there, one side was what they called Hokkien Bangs, And for us, every little bit, the sergeant cursed on it or wanted to complain already. So it was the kind of the two different subcultures, if you will. So, but nevertheless, really, I just thought that, and that the other day I saw my army buddy, which also happened to be my SJC mate.
Do you still keep in touch with them?
Yes, no. They came a couple of times over here, but I wasn't here at that time. And then we caught up again during the reunion I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And it goes way back to when we were 20s. And then had a lot of fun. And even during police training, it was something that was now open up. So we graduated as inspectors, probation inspectors, and thrown in the deep end to do a bit of criminal investigation, that kind of thing. But again, it was a tremendous, experience in it. I remember we were then assigned after training. We assigned, and I was assigned to posted to Toa Payoh Division, which is no longer there already. B Division, and I remember having to assign every now and then plainclothes sometimes once a month, sometimes once a fortnight, to go on to Serangoon Road area, Desco Road area there, right? And we were in a plainclothes, so two sergeants were assigned to me, but in actual fact, you took the keys from them. They're the Lao Jiaos already, right? They know the streets. And the two guys that I was assigned to were called Singapore Stars and Hutch. I don't know if you remember that. So you know that the general trend that we were going, those guys were gung-ho, and he just came the other day again and says, "Hey, can you remember me?" It took me a little while, but in the end, I recognized him. Yeah. I just remember one incident when we were at Desco Road. We got out of the car, right? And all of a sudden, he struck his revolver. Oh, and then I said, what the hell's going on? He told me, "Okay, I'll pull your revolver." I said, "Oh, why?" Then he noticed a guy, one of his it was an altar. Then the guy pulled out a bread knife, and he was holding his arm this way, right up his lower arm, and he was walking towards another product. I think they were going to get a fight or something like this. And that was the first time that I pulled out over, what I was going to, in those kind of that you train for it, but nothing like meeting with a new thing. Then the guy saw, and then he said, the guy just said, Mata, and then, and everybody just split through it. And then I just saw one guy running away. I just chased after him. And after quite a while, he turned into one house. Then I got to him, and I was panting, he was panting. Then I said, why did you run? And and he was just, I don't know. I saw the gun pulled out, so I was scared. And in the end, after checks and everything, he was innocent. So that was just one incident. There were quite a few incidents.
But that was quite a brave thing to do, right? You're running after somebody who might be
at that
gangster,
time,
right?
adrenaline pumping. The sergeant was out chasing one guy. I just saw one guy running, spin in that direction. Your instinct is just, let's go for it. That kind of thing.
So that instinct is an important
part,
which I would like to come back on, you see, right? Because I think it has to do with something to do with the character,
I don't know. It was just that I suppose, okay, but right up until then, it never really dawned on me. I guess you're talking about my early 20s, so it never dawned on me that what I really wanted to do at that time. So it was just.
Okay, we'll come later on to the effect of bravery, right, on your political life, right? But we'll come to that. But before that, let's talk about your American experience. Right. First of all, how did you happen to go to America?
Really, because at that time I was struggling. That was during NS at the time. I took my A-levels as a private candidate. At that time, you could still do it.
Yeah.
And I did just as miserably. So after training, I remember when I was in police academy. So sometimes, training would end about 5 o'clock, and then we'll go for dinner. After that, I'll take my books and go to the classroom and try to, monk for the exams, but never got very far either. And I just remember after that, when I finished our ROD already, I was still, grappling with what I was going to do in life and so on. And I remember thinking of I didn't qualify for any of the departments at NUS. And I did think of doing distance learning in law. But at the same time, I just felt that I had to get out of Singapore. I just couldn't. It was just so an intellectual, cultural desert as far as I was concerned. And I'm talking about just finishing for the. But then I remember at that time I started getting interested in some of the issues, and I don't know again what possessed me, but the first book that I picked up, I remember it was a non-fiction book. It was 4 topics. It was the Arab-Israeli conflict. I just picked it up and I read it and just found it very engaging at that time.
This would be in the
early 80s. So after that, after a little while, I just felt like I had to get out. Otherwise, I did contemplate at one point of signing on with the police. But over there, some of the inspectors that advised me against it. He said, look, that's true. You've got, ideas and plans to want to go further, don't. Because after a little while, you kind of get into a rut. That's the end of it already. So, okay, I decided against it. Go on. And then I just thought that, look, I had to get out. So, in the end, I didn't do the law, distance law. And I screwed up enough courage to think that, hey, look, let's go to the US at that time. And my grades were so poor that none of the top schools would take me on as well. So, I found a little college there that would take me. Then there was another problem. It's hugely expensive going to the US. So I spent 1 more year after I ORD during tuition classes and so on. And then of course my sister, elder sister.
Oh,
helped
you
me
made
out.
some money from tuition.
Tuition, yes, yes. So, you know, you go down to their homes and then, I did it full time for a good year. So managed to rustle up enough for funds. And as I said, with the help of my sister, then manage 1 year, 1 year's expenses. So on a wing and a prayer, I left for the US, not knowing whether I was going to be able to go on the second year or so. But then when I remember when I got there, I walked into, they assigned you a major professor. I decided I wanted to do psychology. I walked in the major professor's room, his office, and he says, "Oh, yes, hi, take a seat. So, tell me, what do you want to study? What courses do you want to take?" And I just looked at him, right? Because having come from the Singapore system, why are you asking me? You're supposed to tell me what I'm supposed to say. I said, no, you know, the US, you've got core subjects, but then after that, they're also electives, and you know, you go according to what you feel like studying. And it was then that I realized that.
So it was a bit of a culture shock.
It was complete culture shock. And it just dawned on me that, you know, how it is that to use that cliche, you begin to discover that, yeah, you're captain of your own, you chart your own way, isn't it? Captain of your own destiny.
Is this where the seeds of democracy?
Yes. It just, yes. And then I just felt that, and as I did the courses, I knew that the professors there were not there just to teach you. They were there to help you to explore, you know, what you were about. And just remember then it was tough. It was very tough. There was a lot of reading and work going on. But I never found it a tedium. I just felt that I was beginning to grow intellectually, and I discovered
because
myself.
I noticed in your book, you mentioned a lot of, you referred to quite a few major philosophers, like, you know,
Yeah. And you know, that was of course postgraduate when you read about Rene Descartes, you know, Locke and Hume, you know, so on. But when you're doing an undergraduate, that was when I really felt that, you know, everything I did.
So you were
prior to that,
you were reading Freud.
Yes. Jung, Freud, you know, Skinner, and you know, the one thing that then my first course that I took at the end of the semester, I scored straight A's, and I just felt that I never in a million years, you know, given my experiences, is just thought I could come back. But then semester after semester after semester, every semester I was in president's list. In order to get a president's list, everything has to be straight A.
Singapore experience, right?
Yes, everything had to be straight A. So I graduated the entire 4 years straight A's. Every semester I got in the president's list. But at that time, I also remember taking a very critical view of the government.
Really?
Yes. And I remember whenever I went to the Straits Times, I looked at it and said, I had to tell myself, hang on, why is there only one newspaper? And when you're immersed in culture, you know that they prided themselves freedom of press. And then I began to question so on, and I took a very, very deep and abiding interest in the education system.
But okay, on that point, you obviously were very disappointed with your educational experience in Singapore, right? Did you equate that to the PAP? The kind of kind of rigidity,
sure,
the kind of prescriptive
yes,
process,
yes.
and so on.
When I was going through it, of course, not because other all students, you kind of didn't have time. But then after that, you have the luxury of back and being able to compare what you were going through in your varsity years and compare and looking back, say, what did I just come through? What did I learn? And at that time, I just remembered that I never quite got into what I could do at the university level. And I then got involved with the International Students Organization there. I got myself, that was I think my first politics, got myself elected as the president there. Although it wasn't very much you're just organizing activities, tours for students, that kind of thing. Friday night movies, all those kinds of activities there. But nonetheless,
but you were beginning to develop your leadership.
I suppose, yeah, and then you talk to your fellow students in there, and then you begin to find out what makes them tick and what they would like to see them as an organization doing, and you be the liaison between them and the school and the university administration. So I guess if I wanted to trace it, that would be the seedlings of how I.
Okay. Now the choice of studying psychology as your major, right? People say that I know it for myself also. The interest in psychology basically is also to sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Isn't it? What was that your motivation?
I guess maybe I don't know. I don't want to get Jungian in this whole conversation, but it may be that there may be just subconscious, but
you wanted to know how the mind works,
and to a large extent as well. Your sensory perception, for example, and how, for example, sometimes your mind, what you see, not with your eyes, but actually with your brain, that kind of thing. How images are then interpreted, and all those kinds of things. So I found the field fascinating, and it was so wide ranging. On the one hand, you've got the social side of this. Then on the other hand, you've got the medical side of psychology. So, and in between everything. And I suppose the psychology is basically the widest definition would be, it's the study of behavior, right? And if you want to narrow it down, the study of human behavior. And human behavior
your thesis was on rats, right?
Sorry?
Your PhD thesis was on rats.
On rats, yes. So, but then, you're talking about studying psychology, and psychology is about everything that's got to do with politics as well, about human behavior, why we behave in a certain way, how you predict the behavior, how you want to try to attempt to control that behavior. So all these things came in.
Which may be reflected in animal behavior as well, right?
Yes. So I went through those 4 years, just really. I hate to use the word enjoy. It's not really quite this, but I found it very gratifying. That yes, and you didn't really have very time. Although during my breaks, I just remember reading Alvin Toffler at that time, Future Shock. Then later he wrote Third Wave, and then kind of other books as well. But that was during my breaks and everything. But during semester time, it was really, really difficult because graduate school, and then I think I got to teach some more while they're studying at the same time, and that was again a very difficult time. But as I said, at no point did I feel that it was a drag. I never felt that I didn't wake up not wanting to go into the lab. And that was how excited I got about my research. And I was doing research on drugs, de-amphetamine, and its effects on the brain, so on and so forth. So again, it's very, very narrow in that sense. But that really gave me that drive to want to find out the truth. And as I said, I'll come back to it. So I remember during my dissertation, your major professor and your team of dissertation examiners, I don't know, was probably like the hazing of PhD students. And that was your final hurdle when you have to clear your dissertation, and then they will award you your PhD if you pass. But then you walk in and you come out feeling you're 6 inches because they made you feel so small, made you feel that don't think that you're just because you're going to graduate with a PhD that you know everything.
This was the PhD interview, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and it was horrible experience that, you know, but you know where they were because you called them by first names already, you know.
Yeah.
And they knew where you were going to, but they wanted to let you know how little you don't know, despite all the 4 years of however long they did your job.
That is the academic hierarchy, right?
Oh, you're not like that with your students, right?
Yeah.